Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be talking about the transit Mercury in Taurus. Well, it's interesting because when you have this transit, it's making the transition from Mercury in Aries into Taurus. And Mercury in Aries was more about extemporaneous thinking, speaking very quickly, off the cuff, sometimes very abruptly in an outspoken manner. People generally wouldn't be thinking much before they would speak, but Taurus is almost the antithesis of this. Taurus is a little bit more methodical in their speech. When Mercury transits Taurus, it's a little bit more about thinking before speaking, articulating things in the way it needs to be said, speaking in a very clear and perspicacious manner, but yet in a very deliberate and methodical fashion. Now, the thing about this too is during the time when Mercury transits Taurus, I see this as a transit where people are more, as far as conversations go, more dominated by things of a financial nature than usual. I find one thing that's very interesting about this transit is that, well, when you have a Mercury transiting Taurus, it often is at a period where people are perhaps getting they're in the United States anyway, they're getting their tax refunds back, or they're still hemming and hawing over how much they may owe the IRS at this time. It could be people that are filing late and they're doing all this work trying to figure out how much they're going to owe the IRS. So it's a lot about finances during this time, and it could be a period where it could be auspicious for people that have, like, say, a business, or they own a store or something, and because it could be very positive for the formulation of financial plans, and perhaps even embarking on a new financial idea. This could be also a time, it's interesting because Mercury is about communication, of course, and Taurus is about money, so it could be a time also where you might see a lot more like commercials and things about money-making schemes. Do this, you could do this to make money. This will get you out of your financial woes, and so on and so forth. And really, I think that's a time where you could really see that come out very strongly in terms of like communication connected with these get-rich schemes and these financial plans which will make you prosper and this and that, which of course a lot of them of course are bogus. And anyway, and also, I think the thinking a lot when Mercury is in Taurus is a lot more pragmatic and practical than in a lot of the other Mercury signs. And during this time, too, you look at Mercury transiting Taurus, it's a lot more about assimilating ideas very slowly but surely. And really, this is a time when people often don't want to be rushed in terms of making a decision on something. It really could be a time where you're more patient as far as seeing maybe the outcome of something. You're not, Mercury in Aries is just the opposite, really the antithesis. It's very impatient. But when Mercury transits Taurus, people are more likely to see things through to the end. And what's interesting too is when I look at Mercury transiting Aries, that could be a time when you have a plethora of ideas that come around, and you might initiate them and try to put them into action. But Aries energy is often about unfinished things. But when Mercury enters Taurus, I think that could be a time when you have a lot of those ideas come to a finish, and that's when you have the follow through more on them in finishing them up. So I think that's another thing to look at. And there's more, I think when Mercury transits Taurus, there's a lot more persistence in thought process as well than a lot of the other Mercury transits. So, but also at this time, it could be about more conservative thinking. People may be more reluctant to try ideas that are innovative and that are new. And even just in general, if you're doing something that it's the true tried method for, you might be more apt to stick with it. Let's say, for example, I mean, you're doing some mechanical work on a vehicle, and you've been using something, just some old, say you were using some tools, and you were trying to compress a coil spring in your vehicle with these tools you found, as opposed to using a coil spring compressor. Well, even though the coil spring compressor would likely be the easier way to do it, you might be stuck in your own way of doing things, regardless of how much more painstaking and time consuming that method may be. So those are some things to look at as far as Mercury transiting Taurus, and also the energy could be very intransigent and intractable. I mean, people, when Mercury transits Taurus, it could indicate that the thinking could be very plotting and really take a long time to come to a decision. But once that decision is reached, people can be very unwavering and very unlikely to change his or her mind once that decision is made. Well, anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment for the transit Mercury in Taurus, and stay tuned next time where I'll be talking about the transit Mercury in Gemini. Two things I want to get with you on before I head out. Firstly, the stars may impel but do not compel. And secondly, never isolate any single astrological element, aspect, planetary placement, position, configuration, influence, or what have you, and make an analysis of a person, astrologically speaking, based on this alone, because astrologically speaking, the person is the sum of all their components in their natal chart and not just one. Until next time, people, stay well.